Hello everybody and welcome back. As we can tell from the date, it's been a while since I've made any videos, and that's because I gave birth. Crazy. Pregnant and then not pregnant, I know. I'm just as astounded as you are. So I gave birth on November 14th, 2020 at 6:10 p.m. and I kind of wanted to talk about my birth story because it was really sudden. Like it was like a spontaneous birth, just like you see kind of like in the movies. I didn't really have time to film, and plus 13 hours of my labor were just boring. Like I don't know, nothing happened, and I forgot to film, and I was in so much pain and I was so tired that filming just wasn't even in my head. I was more focused on like dilating and like just labor in general. So I kind of wanted to give you a little backstory before I get into my birth story of my pregnancy. I found out I was pregnant at around 4 weeks and 1 day, around that time. You know, I felt fine. I was so excited to be pregnant, and then at around 6-7 weeks is when, pregnancy hit me, and I got really bad nausea. My nausea was awful. I mean, like, I couldn't eat anything. All I could eat was macaroni and cheese. I don't know why, but that's all I could hold down was macaroni and cheese, and then soup sometimes, but it was just awful nausea. Everything made me sick. The smell of everything I couldn't even pet my dog Stormy. That's how bad my nausea was. Like, just the smell of her, like, not that she smelled bad, but just like that dog smell gave me such bad nausea. Like, I felt so bad. It hit me like a train. From there, I had my first OB appointment at 8 weeks. All of my appointments throughout my whole pregnancy were online because of COVID, which sucked. So only like a couple of them were in person where I could like hear the baby's heartbeat and like see him. The only times that I would, go in was if I was having an ultrasound, or I had to get blood work done, or, I had to get the diabetes. It was like gestational diabetes. You have to take this drink at, I want to say it was like 28 weeks. I don't even remember it. I feel like it was so long ago. And then of course to check if I'm dilated. My nausea kicked in at 6 to 7 weeks, and it lasted until I was about 20 weeks. Like, I mean, it was awful. Like, it was so hard for me to keep anything down, and nothing sounded good, and it was just, I don't even want to remember that part. That part was just so bad because I just felt awful for the longest time. At that time, I was also working, so I guess like going out and like working and keeping my mind off the nausea, it wasn't as bad. So my nausea kind of went away while I was working, and I worked up until I was about 36 weeks pregnant, which is good because, I was active the whole time. I wasn't just sitting here on the couch. And I know they say that you should relax, but like, I'm a person that I can't just like sit on the couch. Like, I can sit on the couch for a day, and then the next day I have to go do something. I can't just like not do anything. I worked up until I was 36 weeks pregnant. Once I was 36 weeks pregnant, I told my job like, hey, that's it for me, because at this point I could kind of give birth whenever. Ideally, you want to give birth after 38 weeks, but some people give birth at 36 weeks, 37 weeks. It's just so spontaneous, and it's my first one. I didn't know. So I just picked, a really close date to my due date, and then, I stopped working. I was here at home, getting ready for the baby, because I really hadn't had anything ready for the baby. We hadn't taken anything out of the boxes yet, so we were just getting like little things done. I was doing laundry, all that fun stuff. And so my next appointment came up. I was about 39 weeks and 1 day. I go in to get checked to see if I've dilated anything, and I hadn't dilated anything at all. Like, nothing. So the doctor goes, you haven't dilated anything, you're 39 weeks and 1 day. If you want, we can schedule your induction now. If you give birth whenever, that's fine. But from what I'm seeing, we should probably schedule you for an induction because you're 39 weeks 1 day and you haven't dilated anything. And I was so excited to go in because I was like, maybe I dilated like 1 centimeter. Like, I was so excited because I had been so active throughout my whole pregnancy. I thought that had helped me dilate, and I was just It was just nothing. It sucks, but I told her, yeah, I guess just like make the appointment. If I hope that I can, you know, give birth before that, but if I don't, then, you know, whatever. I really didn't want to be induced. My ideal birth was a vaginal birth, spontaneous, you know, just in the movies. I just wanted to give birth. I didn't want a C-section. I didn't want to be induced. I wanted to spontaneously just go into labor. And I was just disappointed that, you know, I wasn't gonna get that because it didn't seem like I was. So fast forward to the same day that night, I went to my mom's house because my sister and her whole family was here in town. So I went to go see my nieces and I was with them for a little while. And so while at my mom's house, I was sitting on the couch and I had about like 2-3 contractions at her house that were pretty uncomfortable. They weren't like super painful, they were just really uncomfortable. But that had happened to me before, like being at her house, I had those kinds of contractions before. So I didn't really think much of it and they went away. Like I didn't have any contractions at all after that. So I went home at around 11, went to bed, and then I woke up at around like 3 a.m. to go pee, which is like normal for me. I wake up like 3-4 times in the morning to go pee. And so I went to the bathroom, I peed, went back to bed, and not even 5 minutes passed and I woke up with like this like pain. And it wasn't like a contraction, it was just like this pain that I was having. I can't really describe it because it wasn't a contraction, it was just kind of like a pain. And in my mind, I was like, oh, I guess I have to pee again. But I mean, not even 5 minutes had passed, which was kind of weird for me because I don't pee and then pee again. I at least wait like 20 minutes, but not even 5 minutes had passed. So I got up and I was like, okay, I guess I have to go to the bathroom. I walked to the bathroom and in the middle of the bathroom, just this gush of water comes out of me. And I was like, oh my God, I just peed myself. But it wasn't pee, is the thing. Like I didn't push, it just by itself came out of me. And I was like, oh my God, I think my water just broke. Like I wasn't sure because it was just so weird. It was my first time. I'm a first time mom. I had no idea, you know, what your water breaking feels like. So I wake up my husband and I'm like, hey, I think my water broke, but I don't know. So, you know, he starts getting everything ready because we don't know if we have to go to the hospital. I call my doctor and I was like, hey, so this and this happened to me and I think my water broke, but I don't really know because I'm a first time mom. So I don't really know what your water breaking feels like. And she was like, oh, definitely come into the emergency room. So, you know, my husband's loading everything up in the car. I'm getting all the dog stuff ready because, you know, my mom was gonna stay with Stormy. And in the midst of me getting all of Stormy's stuff done, all of a sudden my contractions hit me. And it was so excruciatingly painful. I mean, like I was doing stuff and I just stopped and I was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Like they were so painful. They weren't like super consistent yet. Like it was one every like maybe 10 minutes. So, you know, I finished getting everything done. We got everything loaded up in the car. And the minute I got into that car, it was contraction after another. It was a contraction that was like over 1 minute long. And then they would stop, and then 5 minutes later, another contraction that was over a minute long. I was in so much pain, and my hospital was 25-30 minutes away from me because my doctors are affiliated with a hospital. They only give birth at this hospital, and it's super far from me. So I'm just sitting there, and I feel every bump, every crevice on the road. I feel everything. These contractions were so intense. It was crazy. It's so hard to describe how painful it is. So we get up to the ER at the hospital and they go, are you the pregnant lady whose water broke? And I was like, yep, that's me. Please get me up into the chair and let's go because I'm in so much pain. Like it was just so hard for me to walk. It was hard for me to talk. So they take my temperature, you know, COVID, I wear my mask, and then my husband goes to park the car and they take me up to the labor and delivery floor. And like, I'm terrified. Like I'm all by myself. They just leave me in the hallway there to talk with a nurse at the desk. And I'm just like terrified because like I don't have somebody with me that I know and I'm in so much pain and like it's just, it all happened so fast. So they take me into a triage room to check my dilation and to make sure my water really did break. So I go in, I change, I get into the bed, and it's just like these contractions are so crazy. Like they're one after the other painful. Like they just are getting to a point where I cannot just bear how painful they are. So they check my dilation, which is painful on top of my contractions. And the lady says I'm about 3 to 4 centimeters dilated. And she takes this little paper and puts it, you know, in my vajayjay, and to check to see if I'm releasing amniotic fluid, which is, you know, the sac, that's what the baby's surrounded with, that's what you leak. And she checks the paper and she goes, oh yeah, your water definitely broke. And like, I'm like, yeah, I know, I feel it, it's gushing, it's just, it won't stop gushing. So after that, you know, my husband comes in, I feel a lot better now that he's here and I have a familiar face with me. So they're doing a bunch of stuff, they're putting my IV in, they're checking my blood pressure, they're putting these like sensors on my stomach. I don't really know what they are. They're to check the baby's heart rate while I'm in labor to make sure that everything's okay. And then the doctor comes in and she goes, all right, so it looks like we're having a baby today. Do you want me to put in an order for an epidural? And I was like holding on to the bed and I'm like, yes, please, right now. Oh my God, please. Like I'm in so much pain at this point. They take me into my labor room, which is where I'm gonna give labor. And I go in and I'm just like, I'm like, where's the anesthesiologist? Like she needs to be right behind me. Like I need this epidural like right now. Like a couple minutes pass and she comes in. We do the whole hunched over, like don't move thing to get the epidural in. She does the epidural. It takes a couple tries. I guess the first time she didn't get it in right, so we did it another time and then it was perfect. We were ready to go. And she goes, it takes about 15 to 20 minutes for the epidural to take effect, but I swear I felt it instantly. Like I didn't feel any more contractions once the epidural was in. It was phenomenal. Like I applaud you if you want to feel natural labor pains. No, for me. That's at 3 to 4 centimeters, I was already dying. I don't want to know what 10 centimeters feels like. I just, no. I applaud you if you do it. I can't. No, I need the epidural. After that, I had 2 different nurses. The night nurse that I had was leaving and I got my morning nurse, or my day nurse. And she comes in and she goes, okay, so you have the epidural in and I'm gonna try something with you to help you, you know, dilate faster. This is something I've done with other patients and it seems to work for them to help them dilate. So I was like, okay, that's fine. There's this ball, it looks like a peanut and it's called the peanut because of its shape. It's literally the funniest looking thing. And she flips me on one side and she puts the peanut in between my legs and she goes, so every hour, 2 hours, I'm gonna flip you on each side with the peanut and this should help you dilate. And I was like, okay. Like I'd never heard that before. Like I've known like the ball that people like bounce on it and it helps you dilate sometimes, but this was like the weirdest thing. I had like this ball in between my legs and I'm like, okay, this is fine. So I have the peanut and I'm like dozing off, you know, 3 o'clock in the morning. I really didn't sleep much. I'm already, you know, I was huge, I was pregnant, I couldn't sleep well, and I woke up at 3 a.m., you know, gushing water. So I hadn't really slept, so I was exhausted. So basically for the 13 hours that I was in labor, I slept those 13 hours. Like it was insane. I woke up once, I think, with nausea and she gave me nausea medication and then I passed out. Like I was zonked, I was gone. So I slept from about 3 o'clock in the morning until 4 p.m. I slept that long. Insane. I woke up a couple times to eat, but I couldn't hold anything down. Not to eat, but like to drink liquids. Like they gave me like juice and like soup, but I just couldn't hold anything down. Like it was impossible. So at around 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I had this like sudden urge that I needed to push. Like it came out of nowhere. I woke up and I was like, I have to push. Like it feels like when you have to poop, kind of. TMI, but it's the truth. So I'm like, I really feel like I need to push. So I told my husband, I'm like, call the nurse because I think I have to push. So my nurse comes in and she's like, what's going on? And I was like, I need to push. Like I have to push. I feel like I need to. And she's like, okay. And she gets those, you know, the things that you put your legs on. I don't know what they're called. So she puts my legs in those And like immediately I just like start pushing because it's just like, I feel like I have to. My body's just instinct is I have to push right now. So she's like, okay, so just whenever you feel the urge to push, push. So normally what happens is when you have an epidural, you don't feel anything. You don't even feel that urge to push. So what had happened was, I don't know if it wore off just in that one area of my body, but I felt every push. Every push, I felt it just in this one localized area. Just my contractions. And it was just so uncomfortable and painful. Like I was doing so good. I was like, oh, I'm gonna have this epidural. I'm not gonna feel anything. Like I'm just gonna push and it's, no. I felt every push and I pushed for 2 hours. 2 hours of just uncomfortable pushing, pain. Like it was awful. Like I had such a good labor. Like I can't complain, but those 2 hours, holy moly, was I uncomfortable. And like my husband is a trooper. Like he basically did the whole labor for me. Like he, at one point, like the nurse left and he's just like holding onto my legs and he's like, 1, 2, 3, and he's squeamish. Like he can't even see blood on the TV. I watch Grey's Anatomy and he sees something and he's like, I can't. So the fact that he's here literally holding my 2 legs with my badge just like there with blood and everything, what a trooper. So I'm pushing for 2 hours and I'm like getting to a point, like, you know, an hour and a half in, I'm getting to a point where I'm like, I feel like I'm not doing anything. I feel like I'm just pushing and like nothing's happening. Like my nurse comes in, I'm like, I need to know like how much longer, do you know? And she's like, I have no idea. Like, I don't know. And she asked me, do you want a mirror so you can see what you're doing? And at first I was like, no, I don't want a mirror. Like I was in so much pain. I didn't even want to see what was going on down there. But like after a while, it just gets to a point where I feel like I'm not doing anything because I'm so numb that I was like, I need the mirror. Like, please bring me the mirror. I need to know what is going on. So she brings me the mirror and like, lo and behold, I can see the baby's head. Like I literally see his like head and some hair and I was like, oh my God, he's like right there. Like I'm actually doing something. Isn't that crazy? I guess that motivated me because after that, I just like kept pushing. Like I was so exhausted. I was so tired. Like I just couldn't push. It felt like I couldn't push anymore, but like that, seeing that just gave me that motivation I needed to keep pushing. So at around 6 o'clock, I want to say they call the doctor in because at that point, like baby's coming out. Like they can tell that baby's about to come out. So the doctor comes in and she's like, all right, she gets everything ready, like all their instruments and all the towels, and like the pediatrics unit comes in and there's a whole bunch of people in my room and I'm just like open and just a whole bunch of people are just in my room. And she's like getting ready and she's like yelling at me. Like I guess the baby was so close and she could see how exhausted I was that those last 10 minutes she's like yelling at me. She's like, you need to push, like go. And I'm like trying to find the strength to push because I'm just so exhausted after 2 hours of pushing. And I'm gonna get emotional. Like I'm already getting emotional. And like I just found like finally the strength like to do like that last push. Like, you know, in the movies where like the lady screams, like she's screaming on the top of the lungs and then you hear like a baby cry. That's what happened. Like I screamed. I swear the lady like in the next room was probably terrified about what was happening. Like she's in labor over here and I'm just like screaming. So I like scream and I'm like pushing and like finally like I feel him come out. Like the whole comes out. Like he is out, ready to go. They take him to the pediatrics unit. They're like looking at him to make sure everything's okay. And like I'm like bawling my eyes out. I'm crying. I'm like, holy crap, I did it. Because first of all, I didn't think I could do it. I was in so much pain. They give him to me. We do skin to skin. Like I'm literally bawling my eyes out because I did it. Like I don't even feel what the like I don't even feel what they're doing to me down there at this point. I had like a 3rd-degree tear and they're like suturing me up and I don't even have epidural down there at this point, but I just like am so focused on this little baby that just like came into this world all of a sudden. Like birth is like crazy. Like it's 1 minute he wasn't even here and then he's just here. Oh, there he is. Here. So that's my birth story. That's, you know, everything up until I gave birth. Like, I had a pretty good birth, I have to say. I spent my whole labor, you know, except for like the part where I was here at home and in the car in excruciating pain. But I basically spent my labor sleeping with, you know, peanut ball in between my legs. But I slept. I took advantage of all that time I had, and I just slept, because now I don't know what that's like to sleep anymore. I don't. But yeah, I didn't really have a birth plan in place. I was kind of like, I knew what I wanted to do. Like, I wanted to give a vaginal birth, and I wanted to be spontaneous. I didn't want to be induced. So I have to say that my birth was basically what I wanted up until the 2 hours of pushing. I didn't want that, but I mean, you know, can't have everything in life. You gotta have one thing or the other. You gotta compromise. So I'm very happy with my birth. I'm super grateful with how it went, because you know, other people's birth stories, like, they'll be in labor for like 36 hours and like nothing, and then they have to get a C-section, and it's just crazy. So my birth was perfect. I couldn't ask for a better one. You know, we have the cutest little baby now, and like, I'm so grateful. And he's 7 weeks now, so he's, you know, about to be 2 months, and we're just like super obsessed with him. I mean, that is just that's my baby, so cute. But yeah, I just thought I'd give you guys, you know, my birth story. I gave birth. The last time you saw me, I was pregnant doing my what's in my hospital bag, and now I'm just a mom. So it's crazy how that happens. And I hope you guys enjoyed. That was my story. And you know, every birth story is different, but I love my story, and I love how my birth went, and I'm just so grateful with, you know, my pregnancy and just everything. But yeah, let me know what you guys, you know, want me to film, what kind of things you want me to talk about, what kind of things you want to see, you know, help me help you, you know, entertain you. But I'll catch you guys next time, you know? So, bye.